Okay, we're going to go over Chapter 4, Developmental Psychology, and I'm going to do this in a couple of the 15-minute segments. So I'm going to take you through the PowerPoint and explain each of these things. So this is just remember the outline. So when we look at developmental psychology, there's two big things. We look at continuity, stages, and stability and change. So when we look at continuity and stages, is development a gradual, continuous process, or is it a sequence of separate stages? So one of the things that the AP exam normally lets kids, or wants kids to understand, is the stage theorist. Like Freud's a stage theorist. He believes this has to happen in order for you to move to the next one. Same thing with Erikson, with his psychosocial development. And remember, Erikson's a neo-Freudian, so that kind of works with that whole Freudian psychoanalysis perspective. Stability and change. Do our early personality traits persist through time? Does it persist through your life? Or do we become a different person as we age? So stability means, does it stay the same, or do we change over time? Continuity is like your height and your weight. You know, you don't notice that you've grown an inch or 2 inches until maybe your pants are a little bit shorter than they're supposed to be. Or maybe, you know, your sleeves aren't coming down as far as they were supposed to. It's the same thing for weight. Stages, you have to hit this point to move to the next one. Know those 4 different things: continuity, stages, stability, and change. Those are typically an essay question, or it could be an essay question on that AP exam. So the next thing that we're going to move to is prenatal development and the newborn. So over time, how do we come to be who we are? It is from zygote to birth, development processes in an orderly, fragile sequence. Birth is fragile, you know, and so that's why when we look at the conception, when we look at all this other stuff, there's many parts that if it doesn't work right, you'll have a miscarriage. There'll be a miscarriage. So a single sperm cell, the male, penetrates the outer coating of the egg, the female, and fuses to form one fertilized cell. So what you see here is the sperm entering the egg, and there's only one sperm cell that will actually be able to enter that egg. And once the egg, what the sperm does is it secretes a fluid, an acid, that eats away at this outer coating, and it brings the sperm inside. Once that happens, the egg is fertilized, and now you have a pregnancy. In the beginning of the pregnancy, a zygote is a fertilized cell with 100 cells that become increasingly diverse. So as time goes on, the thing is going to start splitting and diversifying. And then about 14 days into the pregnancy, the zygote becomes an embryo. And the embryo, it looks really kind of like a little lizard thing, but it does resemble a human baby. Now, at 9 weeks, the embryo is going to turn into the fetus. And this is really when you see the baby coming to look more like a human. So during this time, it's very important that mom is very protective of what she eats and what she drinks. So teratogens are chemicals or viruses that can enter the placenta and harm the developing fetus. So teratogens can be flu, alcohol, drugs. Whatever mom eats, whatever mom does, the baby also eats, and the baby is also doing. So if you're drinking like a lot of caffeine, caffeine is a teratogen. You're not supposed to have so much caffeine when you're pregnant. Normally like a soda or a coffee a day. That's it. So no venti lattes. When the competent newborn, once the mama has the baby, we look at the newborn actually being able to take the mom and survive with mom or dad. They have to have somebody to help them with their survival, but they do have survival instincts. And remember, instincts are automatic, they're inborn. So infants are born with reflexes that aid in survival, like the rooting reflex. When you touch the cheek of a baby, remember what the touching of that cheek is going to do is the baby is going to start rooting. They're going to start finding something to eat. That's why they'll suck on their hands, because what they're really trying to do is they're trying to find a bottle or the mom in order to locate food. The competent newborn. So when you have a baby, what is going to happen in the animal world and in the human world is a mother can actually tell her baby's cry from other babies. So offspring cries are important signals for parents because it tells us, oh, baby needs something. Baby's wet, baby needs to eat, so nourishment. In animals and humans, such cries are quickly attended to, and then they're relieved. And then the baby doesn't cry anymore. What we've noticed with children and their cognitive development is children who are developing properly, what we notice is that kids who are smart, who are intelligent, they get bored looking at things for a long time. So the infant that kind of looks around a lot, that infant is going to later on have a higher intelligence scale than the infants who are not really stimulated. They're not exposed to a whole lot of different things. But this goes back to the neuroscience. The more we expose a child as a baby and as they get older to different stimuli, to different objects, then we know that they are learning. So infants pay more attention to new objects than things that they've always been looking at, and that shows that they are learning. So infancy and childhood. Infancy is newborn to toddler. Childhood's toddler years to teenage years. When you look at the brain is developing so rapidly. During this time, the baby's brain is a sponge, and it's picking up everything around them. So what you do, the touching, the holding of the baby, all that stuff is really important. So to understand the emergence of the motor skills, baby being able to hold the bottle or baby being able to grasp things, and memory, we need to understand the developing brain. So here's the brain at birth. You see activity, 3 months, 15 months. All this stuff has gone on, and it just shows that the brain is producing a lot of neurons, and these neurons are just constantly building that brain up and up and up and up, and so the baby is just getting smarter as the day goes. Maturation is just talking about the natural course of development. So when we look at maturation, what you look at is before you're actually able to walk. Okay? Before you're able to talk, there's certain processes that you got to go through. So it's just the course of development. Here's maturation for motor development. In order for a baby to start actually being able to walk, here's our cute little babies. First, the baby's actually got to sit unsupported. Mommy and daddy aren't holding them up. So sitting unsupported for 6 months. That's 6 months, okay? Crawling, 8 to 9 months. Getting the little legs moving. They start the walk normally about 12 months, and then they should be able to walk independently about 15 months into their life. So this is the natural process, the maturation of a baby. So maturation in the infant memory, normally children do not actually start developing memory until about 3.5 to 4 years. And there's some arguments on this. Some people say that they develop it maybe a little bit earlier. But a 5-year-old has a sense of self. That means they can recognize themselves in the mirror. And because they can do that, they have an increased long-term memory. So what you really start seeing is that they start organizing their memory from 3 to 4 years old. And Piaget. So we're going to look at Piaget. He does cognitive development. And remember, socks protect cold feet, and I'm going to show you that. Socks protect cold feet is how you can remember Piaget's different stages, because he is a stage theorist. So Piaget, he looks at the way the mind develops. So Piaget believed that the driving force behind intellectual development is the biological development amidst experiences with the environment. So we look at our cute little baby. She made a mistake. She thinks that this is a real slide, and he really thinks that this is a miniature car. But what we've seen is that they've observed something in the environment, and now they've thought about it, and they're trying to react to it. So Piaget comes out with schemas. Schemas are just the mental molds into which we pour our experiences. So Gabriella, she's looking at this little picture book, and it's of a cow, and she's with her daddy, and she's looking at a picture book. Great. Now mommy and daddy take Gabriella to the actual zoo so that she can look at the different animals. She goes to the zoo, and she sees this brown thing, and to Gabriella it looks like a cow, because that is her schema, that's her mold. So she's trying to assimilate. Assimilate means similar. Okay? This new animal into an existing schema. It's brown. It's got 4 legs. It's got some pointy little thing right here. So it's got to be a cow. But mommy's going to correct her. So Gabrielle is going to now accommodate her schema for large, shaggy animals, and she's going to continue modifying it. So the schema is going to include mommy moose, baby moose, and so forth. So she's going to start to do the accommodation. So assimilate, make it similar to your schema. Accommodate is adjustment. So the process of assimilation involves incorporating new experiences into our current understanding. So similar. Try and make it, bring it in, incorporate. In schemas, what we can also do is we can do accommodation. And this just means we're modifying it. So here's where the socks protect cold feet thing, okay? So Piaget, know his Piaget theory. And when you get your exam, this might be something that you want to write down. So birth in nearly 2 years is what we call the sensory motor stage. Think about a baby. When a baby is born, a baby likes to touch, hold, grasp things. And it's all through their senses. This is how babies learn. And there's two phenomena that go on during this time: object permanence and stranger anxiety. Object permanence means that out of sight, out of mind. If the baby drops something, the baby doesn't remember that the baby actually dropped it. And the reason why they don't remember it is because they don't have memory developing yet. And stranger anxiety, normally about 6 months, kids start to, when they're actually being able to be a little bit more mobile, get out more in the environment, we start seeing kids being scared of strangers. Once they've developed object permanence and stranger anxiety, once they've hit about 2 years old, children progress into the pre-operational stage. This is normally 2 to about 6, 7 years old. Okay. So when in the pre-operational stage, what we look at is representing things with words and images and using intuition rather than logic. So if you asked a child at this age why they did something, they're going to tell you, I don't know. I don't know. They just felt like doing it. They don't have logic. They go off their gut. They go off intuition. So during this time, we see children do pretend play. They believe that their animals come alive at night. And why they believe that their animals come alive at night is because they don't understand yet. It's that pretend play. So they play tea with their bears, and they think that their bears are really drinking the tea. They have egocentrism, and egocentrism means that they cannot see anything from anyone else's point of view. And what that's talking about is that when kids are little, they'll stand in front of the television and they truly believe that you can see right through them. They don't know that they're blocking your view of the TV as well. Language development is also something that we see from 2 to normally 6, 7. They acquire language very rapidly during these stages. Once a child has hit the pretend play, the egocentrism, and the language development of the pre-operational stage, we go to the concrete operational stage from 7 to 11 years old. During this time, children think logically about concrete events, and concrete is solid facts. Kids like things during this time that are factual, black and white, no abstract reasoning yet. So they grasp concrete analogies and perform math, simple math stuff. So they can do conservation. This is the whole water glass thing, and we'll look at that in a little bit. Then they can do math. So they can do like 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 2 is 6, and then 2 plus 4 is 6. They get how to do the reverse part. So they can do algebra. About 12 through adulthood years, this is when formal operational develops. This is the abstract reasoning. This is when kids want, and teenagers, when you want to see things more than in the black and white, the factual content. You will be able to understand that there's sometimes more than one right answer to a problem. And there's potential for mature moral reasoning. And we'll look at moral reasoning when we look at Kohlberg, because Kohlberg is also a moral stage there. So he's going to do the moral ladder. So this is just the baby with the sensory motor, with the object permanence. So at 8 months, she sees the little doggy. Doggy's covered up. What is out of sight is not out of mind anymore, because now the baby has figured out, my doggy still exists. Isn't she so cute? Sensory motor stage, there is some criticism. They don't necessarily care for the stage theories. You know, it just depends on who you are in psychology, as if you like stage theories or not. So Piaget believed children in the sensory motor stage did not think. Okay, and so because they can't think, they don't have any abstract concepts. But when we look at recent research, we do understand that kids get physics, the basic laws of physics, and they are amazed at how a ball can stop in midair or disappear. So you do these little steps. So children can also count. So we notice that young children are actually able to count if they've been taught. So Piaget is going to suggest that kids from 2 years old to about 6 to 7 are in the pre-operational stage, and they're too young to perform mental operations. So this is the law of conservation. So what this researcher has done is she's poured this glass, you see these two beakers and water, she turned them upside down, and the kid thinks that because the water level here is higher that has more water in it, which we know it doesn't. The water is exactly the same, but because it looks different for the child doesn't have the conservation yet. He doesn't understand it's the same. Now there's some criticisms here. When shown a model of a dog's hiding place behind the couch, a 2.5-year-old could not locate the stuffed dog in the actual room, but the 3-year-old could. So what's